The federal Treasurer says the economy is still strong, despite ending last financial year with a deficit of nearly $48 billion. That's better than expected because the government spent $3.6 billion less than planned. But net government debt is up more than $2 billion to $84 billion. And the federal opposition is again questioning when the budget will return to surplus. Here's political correspondent Tom Eagledon.
If the footy's any indication, things are still going Tony Abbott's way.
Just crazy about the way we move.
The Manly Sea Eagles call his electorate home, and they're the favourites in the Rugby League Grand Final on Sunday.
The Eagle Rock.
The Eagle Rock. A political victory could be on the horizon too. The government's missed its forecast tax take by around $2 billion, thanks to falling stock markets and company revenues.
That's a reduction of 13% on what was forecast in 2008-9. That's a pretty substantial hit to anyone's income.
I think it's pretty obvious that we're not going to be in surplus in 2012-13, as the government has been promising.
The opposition finance spokesman says it's disgraceful.
And it is no wonder that Wayne Swan has used the eve of the football finals around the country to drop these numbers. If I was Wayne Swan, I would be deeply embarrassed.
But the government's actually almost $2 billion closer to achieving a surplus than forecast. While the lost taxes cost $2 billion, spending was down more than $3 billion, leaving the bottom line better off.
And the only reason it is smaller is because some people didn't take up the payments that they were eligible for. It's nothing to do with the government.
Nonetheless, Wayne Swan does seem to be preparing the ground for a backdown on the promised return to surplus next financial year.
So we'll have softer revenues going forward as a consequence of the global instability. And all of that will make it more difficult to reach surplus in 2012-13, but we are absolutely determined to do that.
The opposition accuses the government of being addicted to spending and says it'll rip out $70 billion from the budget if it's elected to office. But the reality is, with a debt to GDP ratio of around 6% compared to 80% in the Eurozone, the debate about the budget surplus is largely symbolic. More consequently, both sides of politics are starting to think the unthinkable. What if global conditions get still worse? The Treasurer says the economy's strong enough to deal with another financial shock.
The fact is that we have shown in the past that if conditions were to change dramatically, that we have the ability, the capacity and the proven record to deal with those circumstances. But those circumstances have not played out as yet.
But the opposition says he's not being realistic.
The world doesn't have to collapse, that unless the commodity prices come off 15 or 20%, and we've got a real problem as a country, and we will have endemic budget deficits.
A prediction Wayne Swan will no doubt remind him of should a fall in prices come to pass. Tom Eagledon, Lateline.